Okay, guys, the Dali report is out, and I'm going to give you my opinion on what happened. Let's start with the first big piece of information here. I said this in my earlier video. These diesel engines on ships are different. They're not what most people are used to. And this is a very important piece of information here that a lot of people don't understand, and it's confirmed in this report. To run the main engine, one of the vessel's 4 diesel generators must be operating and supplying the vessel with electrical power. The emergency generator alone cannot be used to restart or run the main engine. There's a lot of internet experts that say they should have done this, they should have done that, the emergency generator should have come on, the main engine should have never stopped. These people don't know what they're talking about. Here it is. This is the official document. I've said it. Everybody in the industry knows this. It's not going to work without electrical power. An emergency generator is not going to do that. It's not designed to do that. It's not supposed to do that. It's for a different purpose. I'm not going to go into that now, but there it is, official government document. Lights go out, the ship stops, the engine stops. The emergency generator will not restart it. Let's move on. This describes the Dali's power distribution system, and this is something that I haven't run across in my career, and it's becoming more common, but it's different. And what they have here is they have a high voltage and a low voltage system, but I highlighted this page because the main engine lubricating pumps come off the high voltage system, and that's critical for running the engine. And let's go on. So the high voltage main engine lube oil pumps, low voltage runs the steering gear and the main engine cooling water pumps. So you need both the high voltage and the low voltage to run the ship. So at the time of the incident, I'm on page 7 now, generator 3 and 4 were supplying electrical power to the vessel. All 3 steering pumps, which turned the ship's single rudder, were online. This is great. The guys on the ship were doing what they're supposed to be doing. They have a generator online and they have a standby generator online. Great. They're doing what they're supposed to do. The steering gear's on. Everything's working. Good for them. We have 2 generators on. Okay, so now we get into the meat and potatoes of it. And at 1:25, the HR1 and LR1 that feed most of the vessel's equipment and lighting unexpectedly opened and tripped. It doesn't say why, but this is going to be very important, because when they trip, we lose the 440, we lose the jacket water pumps, we lose the steering, and the engine is going to stop. But generator 3 and 4 continue to run and supply power to the high voltage bus. This is weird. So they provided the drawing. This is page 8. And this is how the electricity is flowing. We're coming from 3 and 4 down to the high voltage bus. It's tied into the bow thruster. And then this way goes to the low voltage bus. So they're saying this LR1 and HR1 opened. So this bus is still live and this one dies. All right. That's interesting. It doesn't say why. We don't know why. And why that happened is the key piece that they need to find. And we don't have that. The loss of electrical power stopped all 3 steering pumps, and therefore the rudder was unable to be moved. At the time the ship was heading, blah, 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 with the rudder at a midship. Okay, the rudder was at a midship when the power went out. There's a map of how they're moving. 126, the pilot orders 20 degrees port rudder. Port rudder is going to drive the ship that way and away from the bridge. Pilot does the right thing. Great. This is a big page here. So this is the incident. We're on page 11. There's a lot on this page to go over. Let's look at it. According to the crew, the emergency generator started and connected to the emergency bus. Its breaker would have closed shortly after the vessel lost electrical power. At this time, the NTSB is still investigating the exact time when the emergency generator started and connected to the emergency bus. It does what it's supposed to do. It comes on. It's confirmed. It's there. Good for the crew. It worked. And the designated emergency steering pump number 3 would have been available to turn the rudder at its low speed setting when operated alone using the emergency electrical power. Steering 3 was designed to run at a lower speed, turning the rudder at a slower rate than with all the pumps. However, without the propeller turning, the rudder would have been less effective. Yes, so the emergency generator comes on. They get steering, but it's slower. And the pilot ordered 20 degrees to port. Everybody's doing the right thing. Things are working as they should, as far as we know. There's no contrary information. In that time, the crew manually closed the breakers for HR1 and LR1, reconnecting the generator number 3 and 4, restoring electrical power to the low voltage bus, supplying power again to the entire vessel. Now, all 3 steering pumps should come back on, but it doesn't really say that. They have something coming from the emergency diesel. It's not the smoking gun. So we keep going. We're moving along. Now the Dali crew was able to restore electrical power to the vessel, but when the ship was 0.2 miles from a bridge, a second electrical blackout occurred because DGR3, DGR4, the breakers connected to generator 3 and 4 to the HV bus opened, causing a total loss of vessel electrical power. HV bus and LV bus having connected to the emergency bus by this time, the emergency generator provided electrical power to the emergency equipment continuously through the second blackout. So we're going to maintain steering here, some lighting, some radars, some things, but we lost the low voltage bus the first time. Now we lose the high voltage bus. We don't know why. That's very important. This is where the whole meat and potatoes of this whole accident are. Generator 2, which had previously started automatically because it was in standby mode, connected and restored power to the HV bus via DGR2. Great. They had their standby generator in standby. It comes on. Great. The pilot orders rudder hard to port, 35 degrees. At this point, the main engine remains shut down. I circled that. We'll come back. And there was no propulsion to assist with steering. So the pilot, he sees that the ship's not turning, orders more rudder. The engine remains shut down. And I've circled that for a reason. There's nothing in this report that says they ever tried to restart it. In the initial videos, you had a lot of people react saying, oh, that smoke is the engine starting, and we never get an indication of that. My theory has always been that was generators and how they're reacting, and this kind of report confirms that it remained shut down. It was never attempted to be restarted, and that's not to anybody's fault because the safety systems don't want it to restart. At 31 seconds after the second blackout, the crew manually closed breakers HR2, LR2, so now they're coming down this side, not this side. Restoring power to the low voltage bus, which was powered by 2. The crew regained electrical power before the vessel struck the pier, but was unable to regain propulsion. Yes, unable to regain propulsion. It's in there again. All right, so yeah, it's not telling us a lot, but it is. It's telling us what didn't happen. They never got the main engine back. This is what's going on with the switchboard. Why still out there? And I'm sorry I don't have that for you. But let's go into this because this is going to give us some hints on what happened. Electrical power loss on the previous day. On March 25th, about 10 hours before leaving Baltimore, Dali experienced a blackout, loss of electrical power to the high voltage and low voltage bus. During in-port maintenance, while working on the diesel exhaust scrubber system for the diesel engine driving the only online generator, generator number 2, a crew member mistakenly closed an inline engine exhaust damper. Closure of this damper effectively blocked the engine cylinder exhaust gas from traveling up its stack and out the vessel, causing the engine to stall. When the system detected a loss of power, generator 3 automatically started and connected to the HV bus. That incident, a lot of people talked about that. They had problems at the dock. This is maintenance. These things happen. It shouldn't. It does. This isn't related to the incident. It had no bearing on it. It's just it happened, and it's a coincidence that it happened the day before. But this next line here is very important, and I put a lot of weight that this will be related to the final findings. And it says, when the vessel power was restored, when a crew member manually closed HR2, LR2, generator 3 continued to run for a short period, but insufficient fuel pressure caused its speed to decrease and its breaker DGR3 to open. A second blackout, another loss of electrical power occurred. In the meantime, the crew had reopened generator 2's engine exhaust damper, but the generator automatically restarted and connected to the HR bus when DGR2 closed. Why this is important: DG3 tries to come online and it can't because there's low fuel pressure, and there shouldn't be low fuel pressure. That's their standby generator. It should be lined up, and something related to this is very likely going to be tied into the final report of what is going on with the fuel with these generators and why it's tripping the generators out. So again, we confirm here that the second blackout in port was related to insufficient fuel pressure for the online generator. It's in here. Coast Guard saying it's in here. NTSB, this lack of fuel pressure is a problem. Pay attention to this. In the final report, this is going to be tied in somehow. I think. That's my theory. This was another thing that came up early in the investigation about bad fuel. So what happens is, let me just read it here. On March 21st, 5 days before the accident, when switching to burning LSMGO, for those who don't know, LSMGO is low sulfur marine gas oil. It's not diesel oil, it's the replacement for diesel oil. It's a thinner diesel oil that has no lubrication to it. The EPA makes us burn it. Paris Accords. It's been a big problem with engines, and this is going to be a contributing factor too, I think, in the long run, is this EPA rated LSMGO that they make us burn. This is very likely a contributing factor. So burning LSMGO in all engines apart and entering U.S. territorial waters 12 miles off the Atlantic coast, as required by the EPA. 5 days ago. So they've been on this gas oil for 5 days. Being on it for 5 days, it wasn't a problem the day of the incident. It's not like it's going to end up being a contamination thing or anything else. This is going to be related to wear on the internals of the fuel systems, and that low sulfur really thin gas oil has no lubrication and it wears out parts prematurely. And this is a very important piece of information. They were doing what they were supposed to do, but this low sulfur stuff is bad news. And then they tested the fuel and they were burning that. So they are confirmed to be burning that good fuel. It's good fuel. It's good, very, very clean fuel, but it has no lubrication to it. And this low sulfur fuel that has no lubrication and the loss of the fuel pressure on generator 3 the day before when they blacked out, these are going to tie together in some way in the final report as to what happens. And if you remember when this first happened, they tried to blame fuel. This is the cleanest fuel they could have. They tried to blame bad fuel or dirty fuel. This is saying their fuel is good. So it wasn't that. So if you're looking for blame, you're going to blame the thing closest to it that wasn't your fault, right? So let's pay very close attention to this low sulfur fuel and why we had low pressure on generator 3 the day before the accident. All right, guys, have a good night. I'm sure I'll be getting a ton of comments and I will try to respond to you.